Never leave.
All right, ready?
Yeah, start it up.
All right. Welcome to the Sports Hangover. I'm Michael Benatar, joined alongside J-Dog.
Mike, it's good to see you. I'm in the bedroom I grew up in South Florida. A little location change for our viewers. We have viewers now.
So is this the same style your bedroom was, with like a treadmill and like flowers decorating the walls, or is this
Unrecognizable. It doesn't even feel like the same room. The flowers are, I follow Room Rater on Twitter, and we see all these guests across cable news and sports, and they all get room rated. And anytime you have a flower like this, Mike, you get instant credibility.
It is weird when people like are going live on TV and they don't even think about what's behind them. It's just like, oh yeah, it's just a mess back here. I'm just gonna like sit up against this wall that looks like it might be in a prison cell, but I'll go in the news.
It is funny. I saw someone on CNN yesterday, like an expert. He had like all these giant pillows stacked up, like in the corner of the room. So like he didn't think anyone would see it. There was 5 pillows stacked, like as high as him. It was like, what are you thinking, dude?
That's so weird. All right, let's hit. I got some big dick energy right off the top. I gotta find it. Haven't hit big dick energy in a long time.
Classic.
Big dick energy, winner of the week.
All right, we all know who the big dick energy is of the week.
It is the guy who's going to give every American $5,000. He is actually doing the next stimulus package. It won't come from the government. It's going to come from Mahomes. 10 years, $500 million, $50 million a year. Even if he gets hurt, he gets like guaranteed $150 million.
Which is great. Good for him.
Great guarantee. It's not enough. How about that? It's not enough.
You don't think it's enough?
No. It's only 22% of the Chiefs' salary cap. He's worth more than that. He makes everyone around him better.
Do you like the idea of these longer term contracts? Because you hear about them in baseball and they're not worth it, stuff like that. I don't feel like I've ever, like, if Russell Wilson signed a 10-year contract, you'd be like, damn, we're solid. Now we just have to build these pieces around our star quarterback for the next few years. And I feel like that's how it should be. But I like their take on this, because 10 years, he's what, like 20 something?
Yeah.
Like 25?
Yeah.
I don't even know how old he is.
He's maybe 23, 24.
Be 33 when he's done with this. That would be great. I mean, he's still in his prime. Brady's 40, whatever at this point. It's still playing. So I love it. I think it's a good move.
I think it's good for him, and it's good for the Chiefs. If I think a lot of people, Mike, say it's too much money. No one should be paid $50 million a year, and you can argue that. But in the current structure of sports, where contracts are out of control, where the price of sporting events is out of control, where the TV rights are out of control, there's no reason why the player responsible for more of that than anyone isn't the one making the money. The owner shouldn't be making $500 million. It should be the quarterback. So in that regard, it makes sense. If you want to argue that the owners charge too much for parking and concessions and tickets, and the TV networks, they're paying too much, you can argue all that because, compared to the rest of America, it's crazy. And hopefully the pandemic helps like justify and bring down some of these costs, to when people can travel and go to events again, because we need to kind of correct some of that, I think.
So the biggest takeaway I got from this was I follow Patrick Mahomes, not only brother online, I follow his girlfriend online, and I thought, how awkward. So let me lay out the scenario for you, which I've really dug into lately. I find it very awkward. Patrick Mahomes' brother, who's done some like very awkward TikTok videos.
Big TikTok star.
Big TikTok star. Lives with his brother.
Then they live together.
They live.
I mean, it's a big house. They might not see each other often.
Yeah, and then we have Brittany, Mahomes' girlfriend, who also lives there.
Oh, they're not married?
Not married. So that was where I was going with it, is how awkward is it that your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever it is, just put yourself in the scenario, just basically won the lotto. He now, or, he's worked hard for it, but he won the lotto. He's now guaranteed, or almost guaranteed, $500 million if he can stay healthy for the next 10 years. How awkward would that be for you? Say we're dating, Jeremy. Me and you are dating.
Oh.
And I got $500 million. Would you feel awkward, or is it like, are you going to ask me for like $1 million? Like, how do you go about that situation?
You don't want to lose it. I wouldn't want to lose you, Mike. I'd do whatever it took, literally anything it took to keep you around. I would say I would be your yes man. I would be it all. But once you're locked down, it's just that first period until you have the ring, until you're married. Once you're married, you can go back to being whoever you want. If you don't want to appease your man, that's fine. He married you. It's okay.
So you're just saying,
I didn't know they weren't married. That is a good wrinkle.
So they have been together for 8 years. They all live in the house together. They have 2 dogs, 2 pits, great dogs. Tried to send them some dope dogs. They've never
I follow
answered.
them on Instagram.
Yeah, cute dogs. So
Steel
it's a very
and something else.
awkward situation because his brother lives there. Is he going to get money? Obviously, he's benefiting from it.
I think the brother gets money before the girlfriend.
You think? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really awkward, and I thought it was kind of funny because I feel like she must think some of this is hers. Like she must think in her back of her mind, like I helped him do this. I was here for him. So I wonder if there was anything that ever could go wrong. Like if you had $500 million and you were with a girl for 8 years, let's say our mutual lawyer friend, he's been with his girlfriend now for 8 years, right?
Wow.
Shout out to our lawyer friend.
Is it a congratulations or is it not? I don't know.
No, not congratulations. Say he got $500 million. Do you think he would leave his girlfriend or would he stay with his girlfriend?
It's so mean to talk about him like this, but yeah, he's leaving his girlfriend. Of course he is. I never thought of it from that way either, and maybe Mahomes leaves his, right? Unless she's responsible, like you said, for some of his success. But we know that our lawyer friend's girlfriend is not responsible for his $500 million success because the man is still trying to make some money.
He's going to get there.
Yeah, he'll get there, but not yet.
I just think it's funny because the money changes it so quickly. Because like tomorrow, if he was a billionaire, it just like changes the whole picture and like scope of your view on life. It's like, shit, I have all this money now. Now I can go like do all this other stuff I've always wanted to do. So I thought it was funny. I thought it was very interesting that she's just been with him for 8 years and now he's almost a billionaire.
It's a long time, but Kermit the Frog, I mean, Mahomes has not been willing to commit, so maybe he will at some point. I can put this in a real world perspective for you. So I was thinking about moving to New York. It's something that could happen in my life, and my brother lives up there. He's looking to move in with his girlfriend. Should I move in to a much nicer place if they want to move, if they want to live together? But you know how it is with like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 3 people paying rent instead of 1.
Yeah.
Should I move in with them, or because I don't see $50 million in anyone's future in that house?
Listen, I feel like it's dicey as a couple than living with the kind of the third wheel the whole time, right? And then your brother, so it's like you kind of have that connection, but then are you gonna have to like pick sides? You know, say me and Aaron are arguing. Who, you know, you got to pick a side. You can't just like stay on one side.
No,
if you were
Aaron's always right. That's easy.
Exactly. So I don't know. I would say do it because you'd get a really nice place in New York, but it might be really awkward too, but I don't know.
Because it won't be a big place. It might be nice and modern, but we know it won't be big.
Exactly. I don't have a game, but I have 2 other things, and then we're gonna get to some name games. NFL season cutting preseason in half. I think we kind of knew this last week.
Great. Let's make it permanent.
What?
Let's make that permanent, right? 2 preseason games should be plenty.
Yeah, I just wonder like I don't know. I always think that no one's really in shape until they play their like 4th preseason game. Because even at the beginning of the season, you can tell like it's a little sloppy. Everybody's just a little tired. They're not fully conditioned. And then the NFL is proposing the whole 35% of players' salaries in escrow in the 2020 season. Because what I found out was if they start the 2020 season, if they actually play a game of football, all the veterans by the Players Association have guaranteed money. They are locked into their contract. No matter if they play or not, they get that money. So I understand why the NFL is doing this. Okay, we're going to push it. We're going to see what's going on. Because right now we have to go through this test of the NBA and NHL. Will this continue? Will this even happen? So it's kind of dicey.
It's crazy, and you can't pay them all out if it's uncertain. And then, you know, the big revenue is actually in the playoffs from the end of the season. That's when all the ratings and the money is coming in. We don't know if we're going to get that far, especially with the talk of the second wave and the fall and then the winter. There's way too much unknown, so I get the money sitting in escrow. I get it. As a businessman myself, I have a lot of money tied up in escrow right now, so I understand the
trading
procedure.
Those stocks. Are you going to give out some picks this week for some stocks? I had a really good one. I don't know if anybody jumped on it the other night when I mentioned Dogecoin, but Dogcoin.
Yeah, so the TikTok boys, that must be you in that group. They are sending Dogecoin way up. Is this a real thing? Is it legit?
I couldn't even believe like the returns that I got just that day were insane. It's like it's not even worth a penny at this point. So you're buying it for like half of a penny to a tenth of a penny.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're trying their goal on TikTok. Now, I already previously owned Dogecoin. Don't ask me why. It's a meme cryptocurrency. I already own some,
Hmm.
but they were trying to get it up to $1. They were saying if you invested don't take this as advice, but they were saying if you invested $25, you would have thousands and thousands of shares of Dogecoin or Dogcoin, whatever you want to call it. And if we could get it to $1, we would all make $50,000. So that was their goal. They're like, if we all band together and raise the price up to $1, we could do this. Now, the issue with that is that means they would be bigger than like the top 5 S&P 500 companies. That's what they would push the market cap of Dogecoin to, which would almost be impossible. So I could see it go to like maybe 2 cents or 3 cents, but
they still have
$1,
to sell the shares at $1 to make that profit, right?
Sure. So you got to ride it out. I
So
mean,
someone is left at the end when it comes all the way back down to 1 cent. Like he went on vacation the week everyone sold, and then he made nothing.
sure. I mean, I don't really understand how it all works. I mean, it's just weird to me because when you're investing in cryptocurrency, you shouldn't be really investing in it. You should be using it as like a currency because it, anonymous, all this stuff. Investing in currency is kind of cuckoo. So if you want to invest in it, you can. I have some just because I had some. You can't really use it many places. I also have Ethereum and Bitcoin, all this, but
Okay, you're losing the audience, Mike.
yeah, I know. All right, so let's play a game. I got a game. We've probably talked about this, years and years ago when the Washington Redskins were supposed to change their name. Everybody was like, please change your name, do this. And now I think it actually might happen. So
I think it will. So the minority owner of the Redskins, who is a big wig at FedEx, he pulled out. They play in FedEx Field. So FedEx is a big part of this. And when corporate America speaks, the consumers listen. And we need corporate America to step up time after time because without them, it's going to be hard to make change. So great job by this FedEx guy.
So now they hopefully will change the name. So I went to, my trusted online gambling source, and I found all the odds on all the names potentially. Now, obviously, it could be something totally different from a lot of these, but most of these make a lot of sense on what the Washington football team could be named. So, do you have any at the top of your head you like before I get into the list?
I think alliteration is good. So anything with a W works.
Okay. Not too many in here.
Okay. Anything political kind of works for me, but it can't be cheesy. So that's kind of where my head's at going in.
Okay. Do you want me to start at the bottom, like the worst possible way? Plus
give us a few
odds?
bad ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you the few bad ones. Plus 5,000. We start in with the Washington Trumps.
No, God, no.
Not gonna work. The Washington Snowflakes, the Washington Hogs, the Washington Arlington. So these are kind of the worst of the batch. Plus 5,000, plus 2,000.
Yeah.
Then we can go up to the top, which I think some of these are a little bit more on point. So I want to go I'm gonna gamble on this. So I really want you to tell me which one you feel comfortable with.
Okay, good.
The Washington Red Tails. I think that's a solid name. Because you can kind of like keep the similar logo, just lose the face and just have kind of the tail.
I hate it. I think the whole idea is to get completely 100% away from Redskin. Okay. How are you going to keep like 3 of the letters exactly the same?
I know. I get it. It would be an easier shift. Then we have Washington Presidents. Doesn't have a really good ring to it.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue, so I can't get on board with that.
And now the Washington Warriors has been thrown around a lot. I think it might be confusing though.
Confusing with Golden State.
Or the Washington Wizards.
I heard the Warriors is another term that people are not happy with. I don't know the whole story on it. I don't want to say one way or the other where I lean, but I don't know that the Warriors is an acceptable name either.
Yeah, so I guess what I heard was that the Golden State Warriors have a deal with the local tribe, and they're actually giving them money. I have no idea.
That's what they say about the Braves. The Braves work with the Native American community, so they'll always be the Braves. That's not good enough, unfortunately.
The Washington Generals kind of sounds like a auto mechanic shop or something.
No, I like that. There is a backstory with the Washington Generals. I believe there was a Washington Generals, maybe a baseball or basketball team. There's a fact checker somewhere on the show that's sure to help us out.
Tweet us.
Yeah. I like Generals. I would throw a few bucks on that.
Okay. The Washington, I'll give you the next 3 that I like. Washington Memorials, Lincolns, Americans, Capitals, and Veterans. Those are the top few. They
Kinda
don't.
like Americans is interesting, but that's not such a good thing at this point.
No.
Uh,
There's
you said the Capitals, that works. What about the Senators?
the
Wasn't that the
Senators.
baseball team back in the day? Yeah, Washington Senators was a baseball team in the early 19th century, Mike.
I don't know. It just, I guess it doesn't ring.
The
Like, you can't be
1924
the
World
Washington
Series.
Kings or veterans, Roosevelts, monuments. I get what they're trying to do here. I
I
think they
like
might just.
Capitals. I like Senators. I like Generals. I like Warriors if it's acceptable.
Now, does it, when you change the name, does it not sound like a fake? It sounds like a Madden made up NFL team, like the Washington Generals.
It will. It's going to. And the Cleveland Indians baseball team has to do it too. I know you're disregarding baseball, but you can't have Indians either if you can't have Redskins.
No, listen. I have no idea how things get changed or moved, but obviously FedEx pulling out, I think definitely pushed them in the right direction. So I'm gonna bet on a few of these. Hopefully the name.
What's your
changed.
favorite? Do you have a leader?
I mean, I did like the Red Tails, but I see where you're going with that. But I think if I was gonna put money on it, I would go with the Generals or like the Capitals. The Capitals make sense. We have the Washington Capitals already, but I don't
So
know.
is that okay? So the baseball team's Nationals, hockey's the Capitals. Like, can you double up because they work for both of them?
I don't know. I always thought it'd be cool if a city had like the same name for or the same colors for all the teams. Like if the
Same
Lakers,
colors.
Kings, and Dodgers all had the same colors scheme and like similar names where they all like meshed together.
I like
It
that.
just like unify all the teams. So I don't know. I think it would be really confusing because like which capitals are better and branding wise, it might be a little confusing, especially in Washington. If it was like Washington State, not Washington D.C., it could be a little different because it's like, but I don't think it's gonna make sense.
No.
do
Some
you
people
want-
think Washington D.C. should be a state
I think so too. Why not?
instead of Trump, putting up his Secret Service barricades. Just make the state government do it.
Bullshit or believe, real quick.
Yeah.
Bullshit or believe time. Bullshit or believe time. Bullshit or believe. All right. I have one here. Will the NBA or the NHL championship or who the Stanley Cup winner, champion, the NBA champion, will we have to put an asterisk on this championship if it actually goes through this year? That's bullshit or believe on that.
You said NBA, correct?
NBA or NHL. You could go either way. Asterisk on either.
Yeah, I want to talk about NHL in a second. NBA, yes, and it's because there's so many players not playing. It's not because of a shortened season. It's not because they're in a bubble. It's because so many teams are missing players. I know it's going to be difficult for whatever team wins, but truthfully, it might just be the healthiest team. The team that doesn't have any COVID on it. It could be the team that has a playoff run. I don't know about this bubble down there, man. I don't know.
I don't know either. And then there was a quote from Bruce Arians, obviously NFL, totally different, but he said he thinks all the Bucks players will get COVID. It's just like he's like, just a matter of how sick they'll get, which I think that's kind of right. Like everybody, it seems to be getting closer and closer to a person that had COVID. Like at first, it's like, oh yeah, like a friend of a friend of a friend, like their mom got COVID, but now it's getting closer and closer and closer to people that have it, and I think eventually it seems like it's going to happen. Like especially if you're with all these guys, you don't know where these other 10 guys were at during the week, like where you're not going to monitor them. And I don't know if the NFL is going to do bubbles very well. So
yeah, the NFL and MLB, so they're both like sleeping in their own beds and in their own cities. I don't know how that's going to work. There's too much COVID and community spread right now. I don't see it's not going to go away by like August 1st. It's still going to be around even if it's less than it is now, which hopefully it is. My thing with that is if you're Tom Brady and you are the picture of health, you are in shape, and it is July and you're not required for training camp till mid-August, say. Should he try to contract COVID now so he doesn't get it in October? And even if he's feeling fine, which we think his body will be fine with it, even if he has minor symptoms, he still has to quarantine. He still has to miss games in October. But now maybe get it.
I don't know. Like every day I get scared, and like some days I'm like, oh, whatever. Or like maybe it would be okay to get it. But then I keep hearing that some people that have had COVID are now getting seizures and effects of it. No one really knows what's going on with COVID.
I didn't know that.
I would say probably not a good deal to get it, but if you're one of the people that are just asymptomatic, maybe it would be okay, but you don't know until you get it. So Honestly, this is going to be a wild next 2 months to see if we can actually get sports on. And the NHL announced they're going to play 3 games a day.
It's brilliant.
They're going to do, which is great. They're going to play it because each coast is going to get a game. It's like going to go one after another 3 times a day, which is.
But they're only in 2 cities, and it's Toronto and Edmonton. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
It's only Canada.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to promote a sport where how many teams are in the U.S.? 2/3 at least, maybe 3/4 of them are located in the U.S., but they're only going to play their games in Canada.
I think there's only 4 Canadian teams. I might be wrong. Could be one less or one more. I think it's great. I mean, I feel like when you like hockey, you know that it's like a Canadian. They love hockey up there. I would pick no other city to host it. Canada's doing it right. No one's dying up there. They're keeping everybody.
No, it's great.
Bubbles.
They are handling it great. I can't go to Canada, Mike. We have to quarantine for 2 weeks. If you want to go to Banff this summer, you can't go. You got to quarantine first and show that you're safe. But the hockey players, they're going up there. They get to play up there and run around and be cool. Just feels a little double class system that I'm not cool with.
They could quarantine for 2 weeks and then just go move there for the whole entire hockey season. And I think
we know every country is handling things better than America, but it doesn't make it any better when you have to leave America to go play the sport.
Yeah, but it's like so close to us anyways. Like, do you really sometimes I don't even consider Canada another country. Like when you cross the border, you're not like, oh man, can't wait to explore all this cool stuff that's going to be totally different from our culture. It's like basically the same.
Is it? Have you been?
I've been. Toronto. Love Toronto. Great city.
Toronto. You did love Toronto.
Great city.
Toronto was supposed to win our bachelor party city breakdown, and no one cared about Toronto. No one even cared. I wanted to say something else before we move on.
Yeah.
The food in the NBA bubble looked nasty as fuck. So players started tweeting it out. We knew it happened. We knew it was going to be like Firefest. And sure enough, they're getting like nasty airplane food that you would not be happy with on Delta Airlines. And they're getting like bread in a plastic bag and like a little paper cup of pasta and like a sandwich that had only meat and cheese. It looked really bad. And I don't know how these NBA players and any athlete who requires 4,000 calories a day are going to like be sustained on that nasty food in their bubble.
I don't know. It's almost like a science experiment, like throwing these guys into a bubble and seeing what happens. Cause
it is.
People are getting it left and like COVID left and right. This obviously, if their diet's not on par, like it's going to be totally off from what their normal like schedule is. It's going to be almost like they went to summer camp and they're happen to be professional athletes that get to play basketball and watch other basketball. So I have no idea anymore. All right, let's do Scandal City.
Cool.
Time to dig up the dirtiest stories around the sport world in this week's Scandal City.
All right, Mike, this is a weird one and one that we should attack here. So we're going to talk about it. We're not shying away from the headlines on this one. So DeSean Jackson, he's back on the Eagles, wide receiver. He put a quote out on social media that says, quote, "White Jews will blackmail and extort America." He went on to say, quote, "I have no hatred in my heart toward no one." Those two sentences don't contradict each other at all. So this is a big deal because we've seen Black Lives Matter. We've seen so much of America step up for what's wrong right now. And you would think DeSean Jackson would understand that everyone is trying to make a better world right now instead of a worse world. And there's a lot of parallels, I think, to the people who dislike Black people and dislike Jewish people. Now, Jewish people have not had the plight, right, that Black Lives Matter have gone through. In full disclosure, me and Mike are both proud Jews.
Yeah, here we are.
And obviously the Holocaust is a completely different story. So we understand that our ancestors fought through so much more than we did. It's just weird. And it's a weird story.
I guess the biggest thing was it's like, I think he stepped up for Black Lives Matter, made a statement about it, trying to help the movement. And I think it just like contradicts that and almost like erases anything he said previously, because it's like, well, what were you trying to say? Like, it's kind of confusing. And I don't know. It's like, I see all these stories on Reddit. Like, are we, like, is he getting kicked off the team? Is all this stuff? And I don't know. It's very weird because it's just, he kind of said it matter of fact. So I have no idea. It's definitely a scandal. And I don't think, I know, didn't the Eagles like put out a statement too about it?
Yeah, they so the Eagles are in a weird spot because 5 years ago they had a receiver, Riley Cooper, probably covered on the Sports Hangover because we've been around for so
We
long.
definitely covered Riley Cooper.
And he used a racial slur. He's a white receiver, obviously a
Mhm.
rare thing. Used a racial slur, and they signed him to a 5-year extension afterwards. So they have set their own precedent where it'd be hard to cut DeSean over these comments. But it is a similar act that he's kind of working through.
But I guess also it's tough. Like, okay, maybe he's just, maybe he's dumb. Maybe he really was trying to say something smart, but we don't know. If you can just consider the fact that he's dumb and made a mistake, then he can apologize for it. That's fine. But I think that's the problem with what we're doing now is that no one's allowed to make a mistake and apologize and understand, oh, you know what? I didn't actually give enough context on it, but I still think the fact that he said it makes him look dumb. And you got to think about what you're saying, especially when you're tweeting this. It's not just like you were in a conversation, like a podcast. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure we say a lot of dumb shit all the time.
Don't go back and try to listen. I'm sure it doesn't exist.
Do not listen to it. But we probably say a lot of dumb shit. And that's because we're just like free balling or whatever. We're just talking back and forth. But when you're sitting there on your phone and thinking like, you know what? I'm going to say this. And I think it's really, really great. I really thought about it. You don't just like fire it off unless you're dumb or you're drunk, right? Like those are the two reasons why something like that would go out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
right?
You're right. Or you're right. So I'm going to assume that he was uneducated. He's not going Zeke Elliott and he's faded on his Twitch right here. This was on Twitter during business hours. So we assume that he's just uneducated. And I give credit to Julian Edelman, a Jewish player in the NFL, who said, hey, come to DC with me, come to the Holocaust Museum, and I'll teach you a little bit about what the Jewish people have gone through. So you have a different appreciation for it. I've never heard of what he's saying. The Jews will blackmail and extort America. I don't even know what that means exactly. I don't know what he's getting at. Like maybe because the Eagles owner is Jewish could be something there, but he's really generalizing things if he is talking about that. There's also an NBA player, Steven Jackson, who came out and like agreed with this comment. So that's another issue. Interesting time we're in. It's weird. Everything's weird, including this story. Weird. And just people need to be more educated. I think, to go behind the curtain a little bit here, Mike, your girlfriend, Erin, is getting very educated on what's going on in the world right now. She's sharing it on her Instagram page, so it's public in a way. And I think she's going about it the right way, where maybe she didn't know a lot about it in the past. And the best thing we can do is educate ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, like, just try to learn about it, figure out what's going on. Like, you said something dumb, try to realize why it's dumb. And if you don't think it was dumb, then you need a lot of learning to do, because I think that's the problem. And I don't know, it's tough because there's like two ways of like people want to cancel. Then there's also like, I'm trying to understand, like maybe he just doesn't know any better. And I don't know if that's any better than, being uneducated. I don't know. I'm just very confused by it all.
Another scandal. I called Erin your girlfriend. She is your fiance. It's hard to remember that someone agreed to spend the rest of their life with you.
It's crazy.
Another scandal that I do have here is ESPN Radio shaking up their whole lineup. And who knows sports talk better than us, better than me and you? We've been doing it for so long. Mike Golick has done 17 years on the ESPN Radio morning show, which is we've nearly done the Sports Hangover that long. Is it that impressive? I don't know. Actually, it is, because the show starts at 6 a.m. 5 days a week. So it's very impressive. And he's out. And like the press release had no mention of that. It's all about Mike Greenberg returning to radio. Also, Dan Lebitard's show has been shrunk, which I think is the best show. At least they get political and they talk about cultural relevance. They're funny.
They went to like 4 hours to 2 hours, right?
Yeah, they got cut in half. And so now we have Greenberg and Max Kellerman taking up the afternoon, which they're both on TV. Do you need them on radio? Is ESPN trying to get through the pandemic by just paying one person for two jobs? Okay, I don't know. What'd you make of all that?
I saw it. Didn't think much of it. I don't know if they're trying to position it more of maybe these guys, we turn all these shows into podcasts, because I listen to the Dan Lebitard podcast, like the best of, which I like. I listen to the Herd's best of.
I didn't know you like Lebitard.
I like him occasionally when there's like sports going on, but when there was no sports, I couldn't really listen to it because sometimes it just gets like so ridiculous that I can't follow. But yeah, I think people are just trying to figure out what to do. And I was actually going to bring up a story about SiriusXM. They're going to buy Stitcher, the podcasting platform, which I think also produces original content. And they're going to buy that for $300 million. So I think a lot of people are investing into this audio platform. And I think I don't know why Sirius is doing this, but they definitely need to get some sort of like podcasting something going on, at least ad supported, where we can listen to Sirius XM shows or something. But it's a big time for audio, which is really weird in this visual TV Quibi world, which if you want to talk about Quibi, we can talk about that too. But it's a wild time, and all these companies are getting scooped up into this audio platform. And listen, we might have been 10 years too early on this, but we knew it was coming. We're here.
We're still here, and we're doing video, which, video is so 2020. And you're right. Like, why is audio taking off, especially in a land of very few commutes? But, there's Alexas, there's speakers everywhere around your house.
Everywhere.
So it's a different world. You everywhere you go, there's a speaker, an AirPod in your ear.
And it seems like with Quibi, I think what I saw and read was that they lost 72% of the people that subscribed on the 3-month free trial.
I saw 90%.
90%. Okay, so even higher.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense, and I still don't think it makes sense. I think we talked about it at the beginning. Why did it have to be on this specific platform? Why couldn't it be on Apple TV or Roku so I could watch these shows like in the comfort of my bed or something?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on it? Because I know, the world of media and streaming. You're doing a lot. So I just wonder, from a content perspective, what stopped them from being what they were. Now, listen, you can blame the pandemic all you want, but I've seen multiple, even my online company, do better during this time because everybody's home.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for like having something in your hand that you're always accessing. Like, I'm sure Twitter surged during the pandemic. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's one small part is the pandemic. I think podcast downloads are down because commutes are down. So there is some effect across the board. Overall, they only have new original Quibi content. There's no like library of The Office or Parks and Rec or SNL, like shows that people are comfortable with, like comfort food in times of crisis like we're going through. I think people want Steve Carell to make them laugh more than ever. So that's one issue. They couldn't stream it to a TV. Like you said, you can't watch it in bed. And your iPhone, you're on it all day. Like, you kind of want to put it down at night and just kind of binge on a show on your big TV that you spent money for. They are on Chromecast now, obviously too little, too late.
Way too late.
And the strategy was just busted. They had so much funding too, so much funding from big Hollywood. It was like $2 billion in funding. So they had the biggest and most expensive people backing them, and it still didn't work.
And it seems like they were like overpaying for that talent. It's like if you wanted to go work there, they would hire you and overpay you just so you could go work there and do an original show. And that's why there were a lot of investors and backers that were celebrities. They're like, oh, this is the future. But the future isn't that. Like, I'd rather spend, 10 minutes on TikTok than I would on watching like some original Quibi show. Yeah. So they made it harder to use than it really is. And I think like for like this podcast, for instance, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to lock it into one platform so it's really, really hard to find. I want it everywhere. Literally anywhere we can find a podcast, you can find this because we're using that technology to be everywhere, not just be in one place. And I don't think that makes sense because it's like HBO doesn't just lock themselves onto one platform. It's like we're on Apple TV, we're on Roku, we're on your phone, we are everywhere because that's what makes sense. Easy of access is you want it convenient. You don't want it to be inconvenient to go watch some dumb show you've never heard of.
And Mike, it's hard to charge right now. So like, I'm excited for Peacock next week, launching on July 15th on Wednesday. There's a free version. Everyone in America can have Peacock for free. And if you don't like it, okay, but at least it was free and you didn't put yourself out there for $9.99 or whatever the price is for so much of these streamers. So I think there's a way to go about it, and Quibi did every single aspect of it wrong.
They did. And I'm like starting a goal of trying to kind of phase out of like, I'm trying to think of how you can get out of Hulu a little bit and maybe like one of these other streaming ones. And I'm going to start building my own video rig of like trying to get streaming over the air a little more and just try to hook it all up in the house. It's a quarantine project.
That's a big project. We'll be standing by for updates.
Okay, good. What else you got? I got nothing else. You got some food news?
No, I got nothing. I'm drinking a high noon. It's 4:59 here, so I'm going to join my parents for happy hour, which is a nice part of being home with them. I had to quarantine for 2 weeks to get here, so I figured I might as well stay a while and hang out with the old folks. But it's good to be home. Good to drink high noon. Good to see you. Let's be positive. It's going to be okay. Even if there's no
What-
sports, even if we're locked up the next 3 months, it'll be okay.
Should we tell the people in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, we will be in Idaho golfing and boating together? That
I'm
is our
very
future.
excited. We don't have a boat booked yet. Should we have a boat booked?
I think a boat might be pretty easy. I don't think there's a lot of people flooding to this random lake in the middle of Idaho, but
I told
we'll see.
someone I was going to Idaho, and she said Coeur d'Alene.
Oh no, you just gave it away, Jeremy.
Oh, we're not supposed to say that? No, we're going to be safe. That's why we're going to Idaho. Never thought we'd go there at all.
Never.
We're going to a place where there's not many folks, Airbnb, kind of lock it up and keep it low
Love
key.
it. Check out popline.co. I actually did a podcast with my fiance Erin on our podcast called Call Me Crazy, and we did a kind of a business review, like a personality PI test and an overview of like how these could kind of help your company if you run a company or interested in like working with people that are different than you so you can grow a company. Actually, Jeremy, you got to take the test. I got to send you the test to take so
Yeah.
you can see how we match
What will
up.
it tell me?
Well, we took a PI test, and I'm a debater, and then and I'm also a persuader or something. I don't know. I gotta send you the,
I don't know.
the test.
You don't win many arguments on this show, Mike.
I don't know. We'll see. I guess I win them all at home or in my head. But I'll send it to you. Go listen to the podcast. It's actually really interesting. We ended up hiring that guy we did the podcast with, and he's going to be running our Dope Dog retreat next week. We're going to be away in a cabin for 3 days, and he's going to be running a big like retreat for us and understanding I don't know. It's great. It's a good podcast. Check it out. Popline.co. Follow us on Instagram at popline.co. And if we want to go rest and listen to reviews, hopefully we are back next week.